At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
All right, folks, welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our program, Roundtable Africa. Always hosted here with Atiku Keller and Edward Amara, Focus on Liberia, West African correspondent. Comfortably seated right now is the man Edward Amara. Edward, welcome to the program. How you doing, my dear brother?
I'm doing much better compared to when the Ukraine war started. We're all doing fine, and I also want to join you in welcoming our thousands of listeners across the globe and hope to discuss interesting topics that are vital to the development of Africa. Thank you, and I'm also joining you to welcome all those who have been participating in commenting, also making their meaningful contribution. This program cannot actually do without their meaningful contribution. Welcome, welcome.
That is so very true there, Edward. And folks following us here, Roundtable Africa, Focus on Liberia. The program is specifically dedicated to discussing the issues happening across the continent of Africa. And today our topic is headline news stories across the continent of Africa. To make this happen today, we have Nigeria opposition PDP and ruling APC won't select a UFO presidential candidate. What is the fate of African youth in politics? What is said that in Africa, most of the political parties are not allowing young people to come to the fold. We will discuss that, and you don't want to miss it. Also, controversial Ima Diko cast expression on Malian transitional government, calling the leaders arrogant. For the details, Edward Amara is comfortably seated. Also, Zambia's president goes 8 months without a salary. What is going on in Zambia? Also, Kenya's president asked his deputy to resign. What is going on in Kenya, you want to know? What is the president of Kenya asking his deputy to resign? That is the vice president he's asking to step down. A lot of politics going on down there. And then finally for today, giving kidnapper ransom to free hostages in Nigeria is equal to 15 years imprisonment. For all the details of all these, we will now go on to Edward Amara for the rundown of the latest developments in Africa. Edward, it's over to you.
Thank you very much. A lot have actually been happening into the continent of Africa. And among them, like one, the Sudanese interim government has actually turned down the ban that has been placed on public demonstration. Because of the military takeover into the Sudan, it has actually come into a public notice that the people of the southern Sudan, they do not or the leadership of the current military regime over there. A series of demonstrations have actually taken place into the country. About a month back, the government moved suddenly to place an absolute ban on any demonstration that may lead to the downfall of the government. But a lot of series of allegations, protests, and whatsoever thing has actually been happening. Now the government has decided to overlook the ban and ensure that people demonstrate for their right. Then we also go into DRC and the Congo. The DRC, the Republic Democratic of Congo, and Rwanda are actually facing series of tension. The DRC government is actually accusing the Rwandese of being supporters of the rebel group into the DRC. However, Paul Kagame government has on numerous occasions denied that allegation. Villagers managed to arrest two of the Rwandese soldiers yesterday. They were actually on detention, but through the negotiation of the Angolan-led government, the Rwandese have been released and with strict warning that they should actually forget about the type of demonstration. Then into Liberia, we learned that the TB drugs that we actually been used into the country has run out of stock of TB drugs, and it has been up to 6 months. And watching at the Liberian health system is rather an appalling one. And if patients are actually in Liberia who are actually tuberculosis patients and yet they are unable to get their treatment, the situation will definitely become a worsening one. And Liberia health has actually suffered from a series of setbacks since the 1989 civil war that took place into the country. Up to now, Liberia have never managed to sustain itself and push forward whatsoever thing. Then finally, we are going to end in the Republic of Guinea. In Guinea, the human rights institution, the UN Human Rights Institution, is actually urging the government led by Mamadi Doumbouya to allow people to demonstrate. The junta-led government actually have sensed it that the Fulanese-led opposition, the civil society activists, and other youth who have sensed it from the government that they do not have the intention to relinquish power as promised. The people are actually demanding that a series of demonstrations will be taken across the street of Conakry, like Guinea Forest and whatsoever, to ensure that the military yield to their pressure and reduce the 1 year, the 3 year, 6 month term that they have actually given for them to relinquish power. But the military is saying no, and if any civilian who does them to come on the street, that person life will be tantamount to or equal to the barrel being used on him. So the UN human rights is actually calling upon the Mamadi-led government to ensure that people are allowed to demonstrate and nobody actually should be threatened just because one has an opinion against the government. But on any military-led government, we have known that for quite a long time that there's a freedom of speech, but there is no freedom after speech. So far, so good. These are the important headlines emanating out of Africa.
Edward Amara, thank you for the rundown of the latest developments in Africa. And folks just joining us here, we want to say welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our program, Roundtable Africa. Seated comfortably is Edward Amara, co-host and Focus on Liberia, West African correspondent based in Freetown, Sierra Leone. Edward, before we go to the topics we have for today, you were just giving the latest that is happening in Guinea. So this young man, he took over, he was celebrated. People thought he would do the right thing. And the very things for which he had to lead, an effort that toppled the president of Guinea, he's more like resorting to those very tactics. What do you make of that as a young person? Are you disappointed that he's resorting to those very things for which he had to lead, the overthrowing of the president of Guinea?
I am hugely disappointed into the current character dispensation of Mamadi Doumbouya. For one, I have been watching the military government led by Mamadi Doumbouya, who is a junta, with keen interest. And from based on past experience observation, I knew that Mamadi Doumbouya was definitely up to no good. Although arguably somebody may say he's a bit youth compared to other countries or compared to his predecessors who have actually been leading the country. But many a time we have seen it that the military actually, one of the few corrupt branches into any government is the military. Because I think we have the three G's, we have God, government, and the gun. And this man is having the government and he also has the gun. So the two G's are at his disposal. And the only other G, which is definitely he cannot touch, is God. But we realize that most of the time when the military come, they condemn people of being corrupt, they condemn them of being undemocratic, and they try to postulate all things that will definitely not match that we suit their own comfort. But I really knew that he was just trying to buy public sympathy, because every Guinean by then was actually yearning for a change. So anybody, it is like the betrayal of Christ. Somebody would have betrayed Christ. So nobody would tell me that Judas Iscariot was a bad person. He actually tried to follow the prophecy. So dirty jobs needed to have been done into Guinea, and everybody was waiting for somebody who will do the dirty job. And Dumuya emanate from the blues. He came and did it. That was why he was being applauded by everybody. Unfortunately, that Dumuya, who with some people were actually thinking that he could be somebody who exonerates Guinea from the shackle of corruption, endemic poverty, misrule, miscarriage of justice, and whatsoever. Unfortunately, he has consolidated himself into power, restricting public demonstration, laying fines on companies, and he's just enriching himself, and he wants to codify the Guinean-led system under his whims and caprices. So it's a very big disappointment, and this is throwing a very strong negative wave to Africa, especially West Africa, because seeing what is happening into Mali, seeing what is happening into Guinea, the Senegal, Chad, and other places, I think this guy is a huge disappointment, and the Guineans are one of the few countries into West Africa that have never tasted democracy, because nobody can tell us that the Conde-led government was a democratic one. It wasn't democratic. Of course, it came through the powers of democracy, but he manipulated everything. His last 5 years into power, we are full of abuses of power and whatsoever. So to me, this guy is appalling. He's a deceiver, and I think we need to have a proactive and a reactive AU, ECOWAS, and other places that are actually bashing out of power. As I'm seeing Guinea relegated to the same position where it was.
Edward Amara there, and Edward, I couldn't agree with you more. One thing I think we can all agree on here is military takeover is never a better option, if we want our democracy, or if we want for democracy to thrive in Africa. Military takeover is never a better option. But we will leave it there. Let's get into the stories for today. We're talking about headline news stories across Africa. Let's make a stop in Nigeria. What is going on in this country? The opposition and the ruling party, none of these political parties are trying to bring the youth into the fold. They're not allowing any youthful person to even be vice presidential candidate. Talk to us. What is the fate of African youth in politics then, Edward?
I think the fate of African youth in politics is actually appalling. Having said that, we can take Nigeria as a case study. The Nigerian government, the ruling APC 9, which was in opposition some 7 or 8 years back, came in with somebody in his 80s. They termed him to be 70, Muhammadu Buhari. He led. We saw Goodluck Jonathan. We saw Sani Abacha. We saw people like Omar Riyawadua. And the list goes on. Since Yakubu Gowon, who was a youth yet led Nigeria in the 1950s, no youth has actually led Nigeria. And you see, you are watching at the barrier that actually surround youth in politics into Africa. In the first place, you have experienced folks. These are our father's generation who are corruptly placed, and they have the arsenals, the weapons at their disposal, like the charisma, that is one. At the same time, they have the monetary power. Most youth today who are entering in politics into Africa, they may be popular, but they do not have the arsenals at their disposal. One of the arsenals that want to have within their possession to win political power into Africa, the easiest one is money. And you watch at Nigeria, the three evils of enemies of mankind are engulfed into Nigeria. There is poverty, there is illiteracy, there is ignorance. And those youth who are opting to lead Nigeria, they are not that financially strong, financially viable to compete against the aged. You watch out Goodluck Jonathan, who was the president of Nigeria some 6 years from, let me just say some 12 years back. Today he has defected to the ruling APC just because he wanted to still be named as a presidential candidate. Then you see Atiku Abubakar, Atiku Abubakar, who is now the designated candidate, presidential candidate for the opposition APC. He is now leading into his 70. And the sixth presidential aspirant placed on the APC contesting list for the president. One person is definitely going to be selected, and they are also definitely not part. He's also definitely not part of any. They have not managed to place any youth on that particular position to become the president. So virtually, one can conclude that the fate of African youth into politics is a dim one. It's very appalling. When you watch at Nigeria, you watch at Nigerian population, who is over 200 million. You have influential youth, well educated, socially connected, but they do not have the power in terms of financial viability to stand up towards this candidate. So what first they do? They ask for experience. How can you ask me for an experience if you haven't given me the opportunity to lead first? Because experience only comes with opportunity of being in the position of leadership or whatsoever thing. That is some of the first thing they ask. And even the 40 years or over 35 years in place on a candidate who should be eligible to become a president of Nigeria is another one that is always also what limiting the chances of youth into Nigeria. And they also come with power because we have different type of power. They come with financial power. Even the money that they are attaching for one to become a presidential candidate in Nigeria is a colossal amount. So all of these things are there, and the youth are there. But what they need, what the Nigerian populace need, is a savior. These youth may have the dreams, they have the potential, they may have the caliber, they have been able to market themselves to the populace. But unfortunately, these are some of the things that are being involved into the civil service of Nigeria, taken over the leadership of Nigeria. If you check just check at their cabinet system, because most of the time we have presidential aspirants emanating from ministers being appointed. It's just like the American system, where you have most presidents today in America actually come from the senators. So if there's nobody who knows useful person in the Senate, then definitely you do not expect a youthful president to become. So similarly with Nigeria, most of those people, they can either be governors and they can either be senators into Nigeria. And almost there is no youthful governor into Nigeria. Almost there is no somebody who is a youth who is definitely a minister. All of them are beyond the age of youth. So it is very dim. And in Africa, the greatest poverty, the greatest problem of all is poverty, coupled with illiteracy and ignorance. And what the people need is the immediate thing. So youth have actually been matched out of these things here. And you are having a kind of system that they create what they call, normally they have the written constitution into our African countries. And you have a written constitution, it is very, very difficult for you to amend. It becomes time protracted, it involves money, and it involves too much of campaigning and whatsoever thing. So these old folks, they do not know the system. They are no longer meandering or diving into our own particular system of things, and they are creating problems. And there are times again, youth are positive radicals. They are definitely not negative radicals. Just look like what is happening today with Bobby Wine. When you watch at his art as a phenomenon, the philosophy and the whatsoever thing that they set aside to ensure that he lead Uganda with, most of those who are corrupt, well placed into Uganda, those who know themselves very well, that if they allow a youth who want to enact their corrupt practice and to ensure that he sanitize the Ugandan government, if such a youth like that come into power, definitely their heads are going to rule. So they form a kind of real syndicate against the people and to militate against this thing, and they come up with steep law. So the fate of African youth into politics is very, 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 very. In fact, most of the positions where youth are placed, it is a serving position. It is not a one that is commanded. So even when you sit on the table, you discuss issues with them, your voice hardly crosses the table. Reason being, you are not placed into a position where you can make critical decisions. Rather, they make the decision and they ask you to implement. And most of the decisions that they ask you to implement are things that favor the aged. So if you watch into Sierra Leone, you watch into Nigeria, you watch into Liberia, you watch into Guinea, except we have few corrupt youth like Mamadi Doumbouya, Giota, and the others who have managed to seize power. So even in the history of Africa, you must understand that the only youth who have managed to lead their countries are those who use the barrel to seize power. It is on rare occasion when you see youth coming. No wonder each time a youth is being given a position into Africa, maybe it is an administrative position. Sometimes when they appoint, they say, oh, this is a minister. Oh, he's a young man. So it is a surprise. It's something that is very weird. It should be something that should actually be part and parcel of the African system. But unfortunately, a young man being put in position into African leadership is something that is weird, is strange, is something that is very uncommon. It's the philosophy, the tax that is around it, and these corrupt old elders who do not want the society to change. And they know exactly that if youth come into leadership into Africa, their corruptly placed syndicates are going to be exposed, prosecuted, and are going to be brought to book. What do you think to conclude things? Just take a common example. It is like youth in African politics can be compared to having a country that was being led for quite a long time by a military government. And if you want to impose democracy, that military government will definitely go against the incoming civilian democracy. Because they will understand that should you allow democracy to reign, they are going to be exposed. That is why you are seeing in places like Sudan, the military government over there will never allow the civilian government to rule in the name of democracy, because those who are going to suffer the consequence is what it's going to be definitely the military government. You cannot allow Joseph Nyumabwaka, who is 80, to lead Liberia. What does he know? You watch at a man in you watch at Raila Odinka, who has been selected by Uhuru Kenyatta to lead Kenya, is in 77. So what are we doing? Do youth have actually the ground? No, because these elders, they know their corrupt practices. They know that if ever a youth is being given the position to come into policies, all the business empires, the way that they have managed to build out of corrupt practices in the 20 or 30 years, they are going to be exposed, prosecuted, and do whatsoever. Then this is the fear, because of a kind of age-old syndicate created by our great grandfathers.
Edward, all that you said, actually is true. But at this point, in this advanced age, can we or can young people continue to blame those they refer to as older people? Because if you look at the population of Nigeria, predominantly youthful. So you want to tell me these young people, one of them can come, they can put a party together, or even if you don't have a party, can one young person not run as an independent candidate for the young people of Nigeria to vote for that candidate, given the fact that they are in majority? Because this is all just crying like a baby. So they identified the problem already, that most of these older folks want to perpetuate themselves in power and don't want to give room to them. So if it is not happening within the political parties, what's about one young person in Nigeria saying, hey, I'm going independent? Those of you who believe that the young people in Nigeria will come to power, we have a candidate. I am your candidate. Let's vote for us. Can they not do that? Because all this crying is going to solve the problem, Edward.
Well, we are watching. You normally see youth succeed into being independent candidate. When it comes to, you have never seen an independent presidential candidate winning election into Africa. Reason being, when you come to presidential election, it's a very expensive one. And as I said initially, the laws around becoming a presidential candidate into Africa, it makes the system so expensive. And we have youth. Youth have actually vowed in. Youth are trying their best. They are vowed in. Some of them have become independent candidates. They have managed to become MPs, that is member of parliament. Some countries call it House of Representatives. They have managed to do that. To do that. Some have even become senators. But when it comes to now to the presidential election time into Africa, it's a very expensive political contest. And youth are not all countries' youth are financially viable. And this is a kind of corrupt system. The police is corrupt. and led by most old people. Tell me which IG, the Inspector General of Police into any country, is a youth? None. Tell me which country Attorney General is a youth? Not. So they know themselves. We are watching at a carefully built. The system is systemically corrupt, and most of those who are on the edge of affairs, they are no longer youth. That is why whenever it comes to decisions that affect the positivity of youth into leadership, they scramble. You can go stop. You can become a minister. Maybe if you have a kind of a presidential candidate that favor you, it's okay. You can become a senator. You can become a House of Representatives. But when it comes now to presidential election, it becomes a very expensive race where they have built the barriers to prevent youth becoming leaders. They have the potential. Of course, Nigeria, you may say, in fact, when you watch at the demography of the population construction of Nigeria, you and I will agree that majority of them are youth. And that serves as a huge advantage for a youth to become a president of Nigeria. But will you qualify first for you to be as a youth and become a presidential candidate? No. One of the things is that they rule it out of the law. You must be around 40 or above 40. So definitely it has matched out somebody who is 20, 25, 30, or in his early 30s to become you. So have you seen one of the barriers? This constitution has never been amended. Another thing, it is a very expensive system. So the corrupt, most of those who decide the politics in African affairs, are no longer youth. So we are watching at the barrier. Not that youth do not have the potential. On a free and fair ground, definitely you can become. But most of the laws that we are even advocating Israel, if I have my degree, I am a 30, let me run for presidential candidate. But if they are making it 40, so how can you go and contest for such thing? So we are watching at because it is the constitution, which is the Bible, the Sharia of any country that mandates you for you to become a leader. But if that constitution is militating against the potential of you becoming a leader, that's why in Nigeria they have one debate: not too young to lead.
Thank you.
Don't just watch somebody. You cannot judge somebody on his or her own dispensation, because you have some people with gray hair who are very full. So we are watching at a system. Maybe the constitution itself to be amended. What do you see normally happens in the country? Look like Uganda. In fact, a president should have stopped in his 60s, not to be allowed to lead in Uganda. What did Museveni did? He did not amend the constitution to even bring it down that a presidential candidate should be allowed. Let me just say somebody within his 25 or 30 has the right to become the president. What did he do? He elevated the age. Instead of somebody retiring from presidential race into his 60s, he sent it up to 80 years. So is that type of constitution helping the youth? No, it is only emitting things that we definitely go against the youth. So this is what we are saying here. We are watching at the barriers that are being attached to the constitution, those things that give the youth the right to become presidential candidate. Those that they have limited. The youth have shown the potential. When they have the opportunity to become representative, if you enter into most countries' House of Representatives, they are youth. Most countries' senators are youth. But when it comes down to the presidential race, they limit the potentials of youth. They come with monetary barriers. So these are some of the things that we are watching at.
Thank you, Edward Amara there. Let us get to our second issue here. Controversial Ima Diko cast aspersions on the Malian transitional government, calling the leaders arrogant. Who is this guy and what is he up to? And is he in trouble by casting this expression on the Malian transitional government? Call.
Imam Diko, how do you call him? He's a kingmaker in Mali.
Okay.
Untouchable, very controversial, unpredictable. And he has the potential to unseat any government. Wow. He has done that on numerous occasions. And even when IBK, Ibrahim Abubakar Keita, was alive, he feared him a lot. And even when I'm just already forgetting the Amadi Toumani Touré, who was another president of Mali, a lot. Even those military guys, we know the military are not trained to lead. They are trained to protect our country against foreign invasion, to provide us security, to protect our life and property, just like the police. However, there is a normal saying like Kwame Nkrumah and Somali, you say when the people feel crushed. And you are watching at Mali society, the difference between a society that is being led on religious basis than a secular one is a bit different. Imam Diko is being celebrated as a religious leader, and 99% of Malians are Muslims. They are definitely not Christian. So in the first place, there is no division. So in him, they watch him like a savior. Whatsoever thing he says and does, people watch at him in different way. So when he calls the military leader arrogant, unfit, stupid, and he thinks that they should change their style or else they risk being evicted, he's definitely right. Because when you watch at all the controversy today that is being led into Mali, it started all on religious basis. Somebody who wants to play the Sharia law instead of Mali being what a secular state. So because this man does not only have power, but he has people who follow him religiously. And because of 99% of Malians are Muslims, and they watch at him as a leader, so he has that commanding force. Of course, the military can only legitimize himself on the Malian people if they have a
Edward, how huge his respect?
He's well known. He is well known into Mali, and he has done it against Amani Toumani Touré. He has done it against Abubakar Keita, and he has the power to also do it against the sitting government. He may not have the military power.
What did he do against the leaders you just named?
When he called on for popular demonstration against these guys, as I said, the Malian society is a deeply Muslim society, and all of them watch at Imam Diko as their religious leader. So they are even military guys who respect him a lot. They seem like somebody who predict the future, who knows what is going to happen wrong. That is why each time he make a call, they attend. He has the most popular mosque into Bamako, and almost everybody listen to him. They obey him more than the military. That is why even those in leadership pay homage to him. He's a kingmaker. If you want if it is just like when you watch in places like the DRC Congo, if you go against the Catholic, it means definitely you do not want the leadership of DRC Congo. If they are not so, Martin Fayola won the election when they gave it to Etienne Tshisekedi. He never won the election, but it is because the Catholic people never favor him. And the DRC is a deeply Catholic society. You can also relate it to Mali. The Diko Imam is a well-placed, well-integrated, well-known, sophisticated in time of making a plan against any sitting government. The like of IBK tried him, he dropped down. He was the one that called a popular demonstration against IBK. And when IBK left, even though the military were there, we are calling the MP16, we are calling the MP23 calling because the demonstration started on the 23. We are calling against the so-called government.
It's even the military so respectful of this guy that everybody will go by his dictates. Is that how powerful he is?
Of course, because the military is coming from a different wing. Not everybody in Mali is a military person. Okay. But almost everybody in Mali is a Muslim by faith. So that is a difference. Those who are not part of the army or who are not any part of the military Mali may not tend to buy the idea of the military people because they know that they do not belong on the same cipher. But almost everybody within Mali is definitely Muslim, and many of those guys who are also Muslim and they are military people, they respect this so-called imam. So that is a difference. He has a voluminous supporters, and a volume of those supporters are Muslims. The Malian themselves are Muslim. So his position being as a religious leader, and Mali is now becoming like a society that wants to place a Sharia law, and it's a kind of contest between the Salafis and whatsoever Muslim, those who want to place a secular state and those who want to place a deeply placed Muslim. So that is the type of contest. Just because of his religious followers, and almost the entire Malian population is a religious one. So it places him into a very important position that can determine what happens into Mali. Except they manage to kill him overnight. But his religious followers.
Edward, is the Malian new transitional government in trouble here, given this huge expression he has cast on the leadership?
Of course, as long as he does not have a kind of deep nexus or connection with the so-called junta government of Mali. It means they themselves understand from the imams utterance, they understand that they are in deep trouble. But the better they can do is either to take him out of the way by killing him, that is one, or they can go into negotiation with him so that he can agree to their time. But trust me, if that imam is to call for demonstration today, people come from Mali everywhere to demonstrate against the Muslim. That is how powerful he is. He's an orator. People believe him. They believe into his prediction, and they believe anything that comes. It's just like a jihad war. When you have why do you think Usman Fantampodio conquer the Hausa land? He only used his religious aspect to dominate the Hausa community because he wanted to take the leadership of the Hausa land. What did he do? He used his clerical background to say the Hausa land was deeply infected with people who are Catholic or religious, and he wanted to sanitize, maybe, and establish a Muslim community where adult worshippers are not going to be encouraged. So this guy can even have a political undertone. He could have another ulterior motive. But being that the entire Malian society is a Muslim community, each time he calls for a demonstration, they obey him. And
so
even
Edward,
yes.
This military, not military, but this transitional government, how much lifespan does it have right now?
Well, come again.
What is the lifespan of the transitional government? How long is this transitional government in power for?
Well, based on what they said the other time, it was for 2 years, 6 months, and by this time they should be having another 1 year, 6 months in power. But because they are falling out with France, that is one, and they want to submit their own weaknesses for excuses and to establish themselves into power. So on paper, they still have a year, 6 months to go, but in practical, they do not have the intention because they do not have the intention to do so.
And is the transitional government, Ed, was supposed to lead the country to the next presidential election, isn't it?
Absolutely. Based on paper, that is what it should do. It should lead the country into the next general election. But Goethe does not have the intention to relinquish power. And even when you watch at Mali per se, any kind of government, irrespective if you're a civilian government, as long as you do not have the backing of the military, your sustainability is a very difficult route. Reason being, the country is actually suffering from series of military attack, and all of the military attack that is when they're having a kind of project to undertake fighting war, is a very expensive one, and if it become an expensive one, a civilian government can only be protected by the backing of that particular country's military. But
so
the military
Edward, finally here, this controversial Imam Diko, do you think if he were to say wants to run for president, that will be a landslide in Mali?
Absolutely, he will win. He will win. It's a landslide victory for him. But it's that type of person who doesn't want to take blame, but
he
always
doesn't want to become president.
He doesn't want to, because he knows that he himself cannot solve the Malian problem. Because he believes in secular state in the first place, but he uses the Muslim as a kind of the religious, the Islamic faith, as a means to make himself so prominent. So if he were to come into power, he knows exactly that he must have insurgents who will march against his leadership, and his vulnerability will be exposed. For now, as long as he's outside, it is easy to criticize when they are outside, but not when they are within. So he knows exactly, and he can contest and win election, but his vulnerability will be exposed.
Thank you. Thank you. And folks watching us, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our program, Roundtable Africa. always hosted here by Sekou Keller and Edward Amara. Sekou is not in today due to technical issues. And Edward, let's move quickly here to the next issue. We are hearing about the Zambian president has gone 8 months without a salary. What is going on? Is he happy with this? How did it come to this point that this president is in power and he has not taken pay for 8 months? What is responsible for this situation? Tell us.
Well, Zambia, one of the strongest, they used to be one of the strongest economy into Africa. And when the copper was viable, financially attractive, because of certain thing, the Zambian government now is now facing series of problems. The copper bed is a bit dry, and COVID-19, Zambia being a landlocked country, and Edgar Lungu, who was there when Ichilema, Hakainde Ichilema succeeded him. He succeeded, according to Hakainde Ichilema, who succeeded Edgar Lungu. He said he inherited a very corrupt government that he even barely made something to cover. But it's not the only person that has made austerity into the Zambia. Even Edgar Lungu once called upon his government to sometimes they even refuse to take their salaries for 2 or 3 months. He has gone 6 months without salary. So it's the kind of thing that they normally use to buy public sympathy. He claims that he has got, it could be now maybe 8 months, 9 months, 1 year, he's not going to take salary because he thinks and feels that he cannot be having almost everything that he wants. Then the Zambians are going to bed hungry.
Edward, you think this is true? Edward, do you think this is true? Or this
yeah. On paper, it is true. He's not officially taking salary, but you are watching at the presidential benefit that. We are talking about, African presidents are absolutely powerful. They almost have everything that they have. Many times, even what they acquire,
because this guy controls the Ministry of Finance.
It's more than the salary.
He controls the Ministry of Finance, right?
Exactly. So there are times, but when you talk about a presidential system of government, he's the overseer almost. That's why he's the chief executive officer. Here, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Finance does report to him. If whether they want to read budget, they can go through the parliament, but everything is being controlled by Mr. President. So if Mr. President it's up to him. But if you watch at the benefit that Mr. President gets outside his salary, the salary is something that's infinitesimal or too little to be accounted for. Having said that, maybe Hakainde Ichilema just want to create a public sympathy for himself because he claims that he is wealthy before coming into power. He did not actually come into power to be paid by the Zambian coffer. Rather, he wants to alleviate Zambia out of poverty. And they want to establish a type of society. But we all know, like Frederick Chiluba, Levi Wanawasa, you talk about Edgar Lungu and others, all of these people, we are well-placed, corrupt politicians that have never been. And they have all facilities being placed under the cover of Mr. President where he can benefit himself. To me, if you ask me, if you are not paying me for a particular job that I am doing, I do not respect such job. Simple. If Ichilema is not being paid for being as the Zambian president, how do you think he will respect the social contract that he signed with those people?
Edward,
this guy is a corrupt person.
Edward, I don't think we should waste time with this story. This guy controls the finance ministry. You said it right. I think he's doing it to buy public sentiment and sympathy. He's trying to see how he can get himself on the side of the poor people, because the only way I would take this serious, if this guy were not eating because he's not getting paid, then, I mean, he's the head of state. He claims that he was worth it before coming to power. And there are some people who come to power and even refuse to take pay because they have money enough. This is a story just about political sympathy. I think let's move to Kenya right now, Edward. Kenya's president asked his deputy to resign. This is where the real politics is. How can this guy ask his vice president to resign. It's like he's begging this man to resign because he does not have the power to fire him. What is going on there, Edward, in Kenya?
Definitely. President Uhuru Kenyatta does not have the power to fire his vice president, William Ruto, because the constitution
Folks, bear with us there. There's a little technical glitch there with our West Africa.
does not empower him to do so. Mm-hmm. But William Ruto has actually fallen out with Mr. President for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry, network. As I was rightly saying, the president does not have the constitutional power to fire his vice president because the constitution bars him from doing such thing. They do come on equal terms, but Mr. President is the overlord. He controls, but William Ruto also has his own power. And constitutionally, we know Kenya and the Ikuyus and other people. And we know how Raila Odinga, who has been nominated by Mr. President to lead his Golden Jubilee Party, he also a very corrupt person. Of course, Raila Odinga is a very corrupt politician who has been in politics for over 30 or 40 years. And since then, he's a very strong opposition leader. He has served as prime minister under this so-called Uhuru Kenyatta. And there's a bitter blood between them. But when they have common interest, that is why they said in politics, there is no permanent enemy. They only have permanent interest. I think the permanent interest of Mr. Kenyatta is to continue being on the hem of affairs of things. He fell out with with William Ruto. What he did, he asked the vice president to willingly resign, and the man is not going to resign. And now the controversy is
Edward, hold on. Don't you see a possibility here where both of them can strike a deal? Maybe he can be given, a financial package that he can take, because this vice president, he already has a huge name recognition in the country. Take that, financial package by reaching a deal, resign, and then once next election surfaces, he jumps into the race. He will be a factor. Don't you think that is possible?
It is unfortunate that that time is no longer in place for him to get any financial backing for him, because when Uhuru Kenyatta asked him to resign, he refused, and Uhuru Kenyatta now has formed a coalition with Raila Odinga, who has been an opposition leader in Kenya for over 30 years, and Uhuru Kenyatta has thrown his support to the main opposition leader. And this vice president has also now the party where Uhuru Kenyatta was being elected. Uhuru Kenyatta has left the party to form a new coalition with the opposition leader into the country. And the current vice president, who is William Ruto, is now with the party that brought Uhuru Kenyatta to power. And he has also selected another female to be his opposition leader. So it's just like they fell out on certain things. And Uhuru Kenyatta knows very well that if Kenyatta, if William Ruto is to come back into power or to become the president of Kenya, maybe Uhuru Kenyatta, could be prosecuted. And Uhuru Kenyatta has been on several occasions accused of being corrupt in one or two things. And there were even court cases, like there was even a case against him and most of his cabinet ministers for them to attend court into
Edward, this vice president, hold on, Edward, this vice president can politically be ostracized or administratively be ostracized by Mr. Kenyatta, given that he doesn't want to work with him. And I don't know.
He cannot politically ostracize him because the Constitution of Kenya bars him from doing such thing. He came on the ticket and he was being elected for the same 5 years.
Edward, hold on, Edward. Edward, hold on. I haven't had the opportunity to read the Constitution of Kenya, but most constitutions across the globe, right, it's always like the vice president assists the president, more so with duties and responsibilities that are being given to by the president. except for like in the case of Liberia, where that person, the vice president, is the president of the Senate and then presides. Other than that, all other duties are being assigned by the president. So that could be what I'm talking about. He could be ostracized. He could just be sitting there and not have anything much to do.
Well, he can. Okay. He can. Except when you are saying he can be ostracized. Well, maybe he can be ostracized in terms of functionalities. In terms of functionalities, but he cannot be ostracized in terms of his being an active member. He cannot be taken out of the Kenyan government. Maybe he can be deactivated in his functions, but he can never be taken out of the government. His position as vice president still remains, but the president can intimidate him in one or two ways. Like most of the time, he can just be seated at his home and a special military contingent will be sent to guide him, to limit his movement. And if he complains, what Mr. Kenyatta will say, I suspect something malicious or whatsoever thing, and I want to protect Mr. Vice President. But Mr. Vice President should call for what? For protection instead of him, because he can change his military frequently. The president has power, but the president does not have power to sack him. But maybe because he is the boss, he still has the power to limit his functionality. But he cannot ostracize him out of the Kenyan government for now. He remains active and he cannot be deactivated. But he functions, maybe most of what he used to do, he cannot do them. But mind you, the Kenyan system, Mr. President also knows exactly what he's playing. Let's assume that he deleted his services into his current administration. And when the election comes, Mr. President lost that particular election. The candidate that is supporting, like Raila Odinga, loses the election to Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta can use those basics against him to prosecute him and one or two things. And we know Africa, each time you are in opposition, you become like a prey for the ruling party. And there is that bitter thing. Of course, the other time he attended church, he asked his overlord, his president, to forgive him. That was Uhuru Kenyatta. William Ruto asked him for forgiveness. To me, it was something just like shedding crocodile's tears. It was something that was done out of insincerity. Deep down, there is corrupt relationship. There is conflict between them, and they really need to sort these things out. So the president is treading consciously on certain ground. He can stop him from doing certain things, but if he continues doing things that the vice president needs to get a consent of, and he fails to do it, when in case Mr. Ruto wins that particular election, he can definitely come to haunt Uhuru Kenyatta. So Uhuru Kenyatta is really treading on a very dangerous ground. It's like a devil.
So Edward, are there reasons that you know for which the president of Kenya does not want to see his vice president? Edward, can you hear me? Folks, bear with us there. There might be a little glitch with the internet there at the end of our West Africa reporter, Edward Amara. Bear with us. I have a very good question for him that will help most of you to understand what is going on here. Edward, quickly, I was just asking you, are there reasons, known reasons, probably things that are distasteful politically against Vice President Ruto, for which the president of Kenya is asking him to resign? Did you hear me, Edward? All right, it seems to be Edward is not hearing me. We'll take a very short break here and we'll come right back. We will be back with you in a very short time. Stay tuned, folks. Don't go anywhere. We are resolving that.
Sorry, our network here is a bit appalling. Mr. Uhuru has accused Mr. Ruto of being a saboteur. Okay. According to him, he is sabotaging the government on every occasion because it is expected that if he has a vice president, when you have a particular vice president, that vice president should protect your back, and it should be somebody like who should market the government image on the positive background. But he's almost blaming the government for every failure, for every problem into Kenya. So it's not serving as a solution to the Kenyan problem or to the government. He's serving like a saboteur. So as long as he's crying down the government, it means he's not willing.
Are there allegations, accusations, Edward? Are there allegations?
But that is the accusation, and he has the vice president.
Things that are distasteful for a public servant, more so for a vice president, for which the president of Kenya is saying, "I don't want to do business with you. I want you to resign." What is the public image right now of this vice president in Kenya?
Well, Ruto is a popular politician, and everybody knows that he has a presidential ambition, and he was actually with the conviction that if Mr. President is leaving, he should be the recommended candidate to take over. It is just like, did you follow when this man came into power? When Goodluck Jonathan, or Sani Abacha, or how do we call him? This man, Olusegun Obasanjo, was in power into Nigeria. The current presidential candidate for the PDP, that is Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar was the designated person to succeed Olusegun Obasanjo. But because Olusegun Obasanjo never wanted Atiku Abubakar to succeed him, he tried to criticize him, lambast him, relegate him, he reprimanded him. In fact, he did everything that he bastardized almost every move of Atiku Abubakar. Let us come, he appointed this man who was a secular, and it was being popularly announced that Alhaji Umar Yar'Adua was a patient. He's not worthy of leading Nigeria. He has a kind of cardiac problem whatsoever. Yet, Mr. President, because he knows that he has fallen out with Atiku Abubakar, and the only person that he thinks can succeed him with popularity could be Umar Yar'Adua, he went ahead and supported him. So we are still watching at African politics. It does happen. So in Sierra Leone, some times ago, we are having this man into power. How do they call him? We are having how do you call it, a president, and his vice president into power. He fell out with his vice president by then, Chief Alhaji Samsumana. What did he do? He sacked him. But the Constitution of Sierra Leone gave him that particular mandate because he never wanted the Constitution to empower him to come into power. So many a time we have seen that only on few occasions when a president wants to leave, he selects another candidate. In Liberia, man, it happened so. I think when Joseph Numa Boakai lost the election, he attributed most of the blame to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, saying that he failed to support him. And even when Tijan Kaba was living here, the late Tijan Kaba, it was being blamed that he established the foundation for the late man. I'm just forgetting Solomon Beyawa, who was our vice president there. He contributed to the failure of Solomon Beyawa not winning the 2007 election. So this is just a normal phenomenon into Africa. You always see presidential candidates supporting their vice president when they are leaving office, provided that they never fell out. If they were friends, if not, they can easily match you out and they supply these pieces of excuses. They could be allegation anyway.
Thank you, Edward Amara. The issue or the relationship between a president and vice president, not only in Africa, but in most countries around the world, if it is good, then it benefits them as a team. But if not, there will always be conflict. And that is the case with what is obtaining in Kenya. We will take a short break. When we come back, we'll be reading your comments. Stay tuned. Your comments, stay tuned. And we will be getting Edward's perspective response to your comments. A short break, and we will be right back momentarily.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Thank you, Dennis Jah. This is Roundtable Africa. We are back with you to read your comments. This one from Vamadi Donzo. Military regime is bad, but civilian government is worst. Yeah, from Mr. Jerome Gilman. Africans are stupid. This is a very strong statement, Mr. Gaiman. That coup was a complete scam. The former president brought his nephew to overthrow him. He's talking about a coup in Guinea that we talked about earlier, that there was a scam that president of Guinea, when he felt that he has fallen off with his people, he instructed his own nephew to overthrow him so that he cannot be prosecuted. He's a free man, while that guy has become a dictator overnight in Guinea. Sad story. Mr. Gaiman here again. The youth have not made the demands. Liberia is an example where the young people have worth, but are choosing to support 80 years old Bwaka. Hey, this guy is a sedition, so he throws a jab at Mr. Bwaka, and that is obvious. Let's hear from Maki Ward. GMB is corrupt, so do your homework. I mean, GMB isn't corrupt, so do your homework. We are not discussing Liberian politics today. Let's hear from Farmland that you also made mistake by electing a president that does not know nothing about government, and right now our people are suffering. I think that person is talking about Liberia. We are not talking Liberia today. Vamandi again, I hate to hear that JMB is corrupt. When last he was audited, that is not relevant to our discussion yet today. You guys want to talk Liberian politics, then we move. Let's hear this one from Jackie Sayer. Zambia president says he will never accept his salary. Former President Logan was a crook. Jackie writes, let's hear from Jackie again. She's based here. They found $65 million on Logan's girlfriend dead. This is the level of mindless corruption, that I have heard. $65 million on his girlfriend's dead. How much money will he have on his wife dead? Well, Jackie continues, Zambia's president is the richest man in Zambia. Do not pin Zambia like Liberia. HH stays in his own house. The judicial brain is very independent and strong, Jackie writes. Also, Zambia works. Education is free. Have you ever been to Zambia? I have not. Maybe Jackie, I'll be making a trip there. Jackie, again, go to Zambia and learn something. I will go and learn something. Kenya vice president is a murderous, corrupt man. Edward, maybe that is why the vice president does not want to see him. Jackie continues, Vice President Ruto should answer how all the witnesses against him at the ICC have been murdered or have disappeared. That is a strong one. Let's hear from Formula here. The president you have right now, is he not corrupt? So very good summation from Jackie there, relevant to the discussion we having. Edward, your response.
Well, as she rightly said, like most of the charges that we have brought against him by the ICC disappeared. We don't know how they went away. And the charges against him, we are definitely dropped down. That tells you that maybe William Ruto knows the root where those questions or secret document against his person we are being tabled. And he's actually been accused of corruption. These were some of the things that maybe Mr. Kenyatta want to use against his person. And Kenyatta is also saying Mr. President or Mr. Vice President is a saboteur. He's serving like a mole. And instead of him protecting his government, he's there castigating the government, maybe blaming the government for each and every obstacle that is found today in Kenya. He also accused him of being a murderous person. Maybe she's saying the man is a murderer because of the 2007 election that brought Kenyatta also to power or still into power. It resulted into a lot of things. So all of those things are there. And I may somehow agree with her, but I think his overlord, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, also cannot be exempted from this. So Uhuru Kenyatta's passion of asking Mr. Vice President to resign and preventing him from becoming anybody in terms of being the president, I think he also knows that there are certain things that are very tangible that are indicting that may maybe dent the image of Mr. President and even force him to succumb to certain decisions. The vice president knows about them. So you must see that the tension between them is definitely nothing that should be overlooked. She spoke of the educational system. I 100% agree with her because I know East Africa. I may not have been into the Zambia, but I think I have some friends over there that I do communicate with them. That is one. And even when you watch at their GDP, you watch at their infrastructure, whatsoever thing. I think in terms of educational aspect, they are fantastically developed. The educational system is is a high standard one, or is a standardized one compared to even that of Sierra Leone. And you know, East Africa, they are somehow well established, more sophisticated in terms of exposure compared to our African level. And most of the thing that we cry, like in time of light, poor road condition, water, most of these things are just history into their country. So, yeah, in as much as possible, I tend to agree with her summation based on the general analysis. But maybe there are depth things that we are yet to know, and that is why Mr. President is still pushing that. William Ruto, I need you not. You aren't going to succeed me. I'm going to create all obstacles to ensure that you do not become president. Of course, 65 million. This was a very popular thing being found in his girlfriend, and I read about it. But he denied it, and these are some of the things. And since
was
then,
it 65 million United States dollars?
yeah,
Or
it's a colossal amount of money, and you must watch like how many Zambians are suffering out of the corrupt living practices of their politicians. The politicians in Zambia are wrongly patterned, very corrupt, and they follow the lineages of their predecessors. And that was what he was being accused of. And Lugo he only ruled Zambia for 1 year, for one term. That tells you that Zambians are very conscientized, they are aware of certain things. But maybe the way we both here, that is why I love Ghana. Ghana was another one that distanced me. What is John and John Dramani Mohammed? He only ruled Gambia, the Ghana for one time, 4 years. He was kicked out of power. So we need to have people who will be conscientized, people who know exactly what they should do. They shouldn't just support you just because you are coming from the region, your tribe, or whatsoever. About that phenomenon that you should be given 2 terms of office. If you rule us 1 term and your term of office did not serve us well, we have the right to kick you out.
All right. All right. Edward Amara there responding to comments, especially those ones submitted by Jackie. Very informative comments there. And Edward, let us close here quickly. And folks, don't just go away. We got something to close with here. Edward, this whole kidnapping thing has become like, a criminal empire. And it's like a business now, and it's happening in Nigeria. We've read stories about it. We continue to hear about it. Even the Nigerian military and others, paramilitary security forces, have not been able to curtail this practice of individuals kidnapping citizens, business people, just about anybody they think they can kidnap to get some ransom from. It is a big business now in Nigeria. So these hostages, so the purpose of this is just to demand ransom from family members. But now we are hearing kidnappers going to what? Be going to jail for about 15 years if they are ever apprehended. Talk to me about this practice in Nigeria.
This is a kind of satire to me because we're here expecting the Nigerian government to have absolute control over what is going on into Nigeria, and they have enough military, maybe, and the police to ensure that the Nigerians are being protected from kidnappers, from highwaymen, from bandits, and this can also be protected by this military. Unfortunately, the Nigerian society is a diversified one, and at the same time, is a deeply religious one, and you have Islamic militants and bandits and also cannibals, and all of our kidnappers have deeply infected the Nigerian government. And the government is now becoming vulnerable because it is undertaking a very huge tax. The tax is like fighting against the Boko Haram, fighting against kidnappers, fighting against other, and solve the general problem of Nigeria, the general domestic problem. Well, similarly, that is not an excuse that the so-called government led by Buhari should not have the potential to protect citizens against unlawful citizens. Unfortunately, we know what happened with the Chibok girls under Goodluck Jonathan days. Up to now, all of them have not been released. The Bauchi girls were also kidnapped. Children are being taken on a daily basis. We have seen foreigners are being kidnapped. People who are of high influential grants are being kidnapped, and they are demanding for ransom. The government is behaving like any Western government. Maybe their mentality have been westernized. Sometimes I say, if some of our leaders in Africa loses their brain, it is high time they started borrowing one to fix our problems. They say no payment for ransom, because the payment of ransom is actually warranting or inducing, if not motivating, most of those kidnappers to continue the act of kidnapping. Because if they kidnap your father today, they kidnap your son, and you pay ransom to them, that will motivate them to keep kidnapping or that used to join. It's a fantastic summation. But let us assume that your so-called government is unable to fortify those people in the first place. They haven't been able to protect them against being kidnapped. And even when they do kidnap them, they hardly, in fact, they go into secret negotiation with those people, because like the Bauchi girls that they are removed, the government pay, Mr. Government pay ransom. Even in the Zambisa forest, we have those some of those Chibo girls who have been released. Mr. Government pay ransom. And people have now felt that they are so vulnerable if they depend on the government for the government to free their citizens or their colleagues, their loved ones who have been kidnapped. The government does not have that capacity. And they will keep saying with their Western mentality that no ransom to payment, no negotiation with criminals. So what normally people do, they pay ransom to the kidnappers and they release their children.
All right.
Now,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Government is saying you risk going 50.
All right, folks, bear with us there. We were just, you know, trying to finalize the discussion here on this topic about giving kidnappers ransom to free hostages in Nigeria is equal to 15 years imprisonment. You know, folks, this is a very, very interesting thing going on. So if some of you don't know, in Nigeria, because of the highly unemployment rate, criminality has increased in Nigeria. And so, criminally speaking, some people have decided that, look, what we're going to do since we don't have jobs, and some people, it may not necessarily be that they can't get a job, but because this thing has become more like a money-making thing in Nigeria. So they go and kidnap just about anybody. Sometimes people, they think they can get money from, they will kidnap that person's daughter, or they will kidnap a man, and they will demand ransom or to free that person. And this has been going on in Nigeria. It's like a huge business. This is how some people are making money in Nigeria. They are kidnapping people, and then they will contact their family members, or those family members will contact them, and then they say, well, in order for us to free this person, this family man, this citizen, you have to pay this amount of money, and the money will be paid, and in most instances they will free that individual. So the government is saying, well, it is because these kidnappers, criminals, are getting ransom, are getting money for this criminality they continue to carry on by snatching people and demanding money. That is why it continues, because they continue to get money. So what we're going to do, anybody who will pay these kidnappers any money for them to free a family member, you will go to prison for 15 years. The government thinks by passing that law, it will prevent people from giving ransom and will subsequently lead to a reduction in the kidnapping business that is going on in Nigeria. But the fact is, these kidnappers are never, ever going to stop. And the government of Nigeria, as powerful as it has been militarily and in all of its paramilitary, or security forces, the Nigerian military and the other security forces have not been able to curtail, have not been able to stop the kidnappers. So passing this law, they have to be able to step in and be able to tackle these kidnappers and dislodge them and stop them, from carrying on these activities, because it has proven to be incapable for a long time now. That is why individuals and family members are trying to find a solution to the problems they're having. So if the Nigerian government is saying this, the Nigerian government should be well prepared to be able to stop this from happening. Other than that, people will have no other option other than to pay the money, because paying these ransoms have led to the freedom of those who have been kidnapped, or that is how some family have been able to get back their loved ones for the hands of these criminals. So to say that if you are caught paying ransom to kidnappers in order to free your family members, you will go in jail for 15 years. The Nigerian government should be able to prove that it has the ability and it has the swiftness to be able to intervene in these cases and get family members or individuals who are being kidnapped by the kidnappers, so that the people will have no reason to pay money. But the fact that the Nigerian security forces have not been able to be up to the task, these people have no other option other than to pay the ransom that they have to pay to free their loved ones. Interesting dynamics there in Nigeria. Again, it is a huge business. Our man Edward Amara is back with me. Edward, let's get your closing. We have gone almost above our time. Let's close this. What's your closing for today, given all of the topics that we discussed? Edward, your closing, please. Can you hear me? Edward, can you hear me? Well, it seems to be Edward is not hearing me, folks. So this is how we will come to the end of yet another edition of our program, Roundtable Africa, always hosted here by Edward Amara and Sekou Keller. We brought you headline news stories across Africa. We were able to talk about Nigeria opposition parties and ruling government who select a youthful presidential candidate. In Nigeria, all the parties are refusing to select a youth to at least be a vice presidential candidate in that African country. So the question we have asked and answered is, what is the fate of African youth in politics? Also, we talk about a controversial imam named Diko, who has cast an expression or expressions on the Malian transitional government. He calls the leaders as arrogant. This is a powerful imam. He controls the Muslim population in Mali. Whatever he says carries a lot of weight. There might be some trouble there with the transitional government. And also we talk about the Zambia president goes 8 months without salary. We talk about the president of Kenya asking his vice president to resign, and we finally ended with this hostages situation, kidnapping situation in Nigeria. Folks, we want to say thank you for always following our broadcast here at Focus on Liberia. We will now close with our usual song to close today's edition of Roundtable Africa. My name is Anthony C, trying to give my team here a backup. We love you all for watching. Catch us again next Wednesday, same time, for another edition of Roundtable Africa. Enjoy the song. We are all Liberians, and bye-bye, folks.
We are